Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In previous video, we have already seen how to develop the API, that is add new user and the login API. So if you haven't watched that video, then just go to description and check out the link. In this video, we are going to develop the remaining 4 APIs that is required for the user info. So let's quickly start with the development of that. So I've already opened the user info REST. Let me just open it. This one is already open. Here we have this user info REST. Go over there. And to that one, first thing, what we are going to do is we are going to develop one API that is get all app users. So that will be get mapping. So we'll type this. Whenever you type this, this will be automatically imported. If this one is not imported in that case, you can check for this specific import. org.springframework.web.mine.annotation.getMapping. After this, in this one, I'm going to give it a path. Path is equal to /get all app user, like this, and it will return a response entity of type ? It can return anything. Either it can return a list of object, or if anything goes wrong, in that case it can return simply a JSON. Okay, so let me just quickly copy this name and paste it over here. No argument is required in this because we are going to extract all the users and going to return this to the UI. So get all user, get all app user. Okay, next thing, what here you can see this is showing one related problem. What is that problem? Because this interface is being implemented by user info REST simple. So you have to go over here and you have to implement it. Hover over this implement method and select this one and click on OK. If I go over here, you can see this, it's automatically implemented, sorry. So let me minimize this. Now here you can see this, we already have two, that is add new app user, login, and we have this get all app user. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy these all the stuff and just paste it over here. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply copy this get all app user and paste it over here, remove this argument, and also this exception is in get all app user, and if anything goes wrong, then simply return something went wrong and internal server error. So this method is not there in the user info service. That's why it's showing the error. So if I hover over this, here you can see this cannot resolve method get all app user. From here also you can directly create it. So if I click on this, it will directly create a response entity of ? type get all app user. Okay, so if you want to create explicitly, in that case, what you have to do is, let me just remove this one and move back over here. So here you can see this, you can go over here. Here we have the service, user info service, and here we have to manually write it. Response entity of type ? get all app user. Like this. So now if you go back over here, you can see this, now the issue is resolved, but in the service now we have one issue. This is why, because in the service implementation is not there for that particular method. So if I go over here, hover over this once again, click on implement methods, select this one and click on OK. So here we have the method. Into this one, first thing what we have to do is we have to again put the try catch block. You just quickly put that try catch exception ex like this, Control Alt and L key to format everything. Now minimize it. After this, inside this one, if anything goes wrong, then again we have to print the exception. So let me just quickly paste it and change the name of this one in the exception in get all app user. Okay, next thing, ex.get message I'm going to return. You can explicitly return the complete object of the exception, or you can simply return the exception message. If anything goes wrong, in that case exception is printed in the console, and after that we have to simply return something went wrong. Next thing what we have to do is we have to return the object, like the data also. So in that case we have to write return new response entity, and inside this one we have to return some data and we have to return the status, HTTP status code, that is okay. To get the data, we have to write the query, and that query is going to accept the email ID. On the email ID basis, we have to exclude that and we have to return the whole data, right? So suppose whichever you are logging, you won't be able to change the status of that. This is the logic. If you have, you can relate this thing if you have seen the quick overview video. If you haven't watched the quick overview video, then please go and watch it. Okay. So let's quickly move back over here to user info repository. Over here, first thing what we have to do is we have to write one repository call, which will basically execute and fetch all the data, and which we are going to return to the UI. So let's quickly write this. So list, and this is of type user info. So user info we have created in the previous video. So make sure to watch all the videos in a sequence. Okay. Get all app user, and this is going to accept one email. Okay. And after this, I'm going to give an implementation for this one. So I'm going to go over here, that is user info, and here I'm going to write a named query. So make some space over here, put annotation @named query. Into this one, we'll give the name is equal to, in the double quotes, we will give the name of this class dot and the method name for which this implementation is, that is this one, get all app user. So move back over here, dot, and paste the name. After this, we have to give the query. So query, and again we put the double quotes. In that case, you can see the error over here, this named query is gone. Over here was, after that I'm going to write the query. So select new, and we have to pass the object, that is user info, this one, current object. So where it is, in the com.article.hub.entity. So I will copy this and paste it over here, dot this current class name. So I will paste it over here and just open and close the parenthesis, the brackets. After this, what we are going to do is, from which table? That is from app user. This is the table name and the entity name, right? So we are going to mention that. Over here, we also have to check that particular user is not deleted. So where is deleted? So let me copy the entity name from here. Yeah, is deletable. Sorry, this is deletable is equal to true. It means that we are going to return or list only those users which can be deleted, right? So I'm going to add that. And after this, email not in this email. So whatever the email which is being passed by the user while calling this API, that email should be excluded from this list. Why? Because suppose I am logged in with a ABC user, then ABC user should not be displayed in the list, so that we cannot perform the operation on ourselves. We cannot disable ourselves while we are accessing the application. Someone else can disable this, but we won't be able to disable ourselves. We won't be able to change the status of ourselves. Okay. So the structure of the query is ready. Next thing, we haven't mentioned that what fields we need. So over here, I need the ID, then name, then email, then status. Let me format it, Ctrl-Alt-L. Let me minimize it. Okay. So you must be worried that we are passing email over here, but you have seen on the multiple places people are using over here @param. So that param is required when that the name of this one is different, and whatever the name we use over here is different. In that case, you have to put the parameter @param, and you have to mention that a specific name. Okay. So now this query is ready to use. And also you must observe that whenever I'm selecting this ID, name, email, and status, and this is being used as a constructor. So in this particular class, we have to create a constructor of type these 4 arguments. So if I go over here in the previous video, as you can see this, I have already added a constructor. That is, one is for type. Also the type should match. So ID is of integer type, name is of a string type, email is also of a string type, and status is also of string type. as you can see over here. So let me move back to the user service impl. So over here we have to call that. So from here what we have to do is we have to simply call it. So user info repository dot get all app user. Into this one we have to pass the email. Again, from where we will get the email? From the token we are going to get it. So as we go over here, you can see this JWT auth filter, we have already auto wired it. If I go into this one, here we have one method that is get email, and this is going to return the email. So we are going to use this. So if you haven't watched my first video after the quick overview, then you will not be aware of this one, that is JWT auth filter. So this is the first video after a quick overview. You have to go and watch that. Okay, so I'm going to use this get email. So let's move back over here to this user info service sample, and over here simply delete this JWT auth filter dot get email. Now this email is being passed into this one. So let's quickly start our application and let's test this. Okay, so our application is already started. Let me clear all fields. Move back over here. Let me close this one. Let me duplicate the tab, and this is a get mapping. So let's change this one to get mapping, and this is app user. Let's move back over here, and we have this get all app user. So let's quickly copy this, paste it, and we don't need any body. So let's check this one to none. And if we try to send it, it will throw 403. Why? Because we haven't passed the token into this one, because this API itself is not bypassed. So first thing what we are going to do is we are going to hit the login API. So this is present in my database. So with this, I'm going to hit the API and I'm going to get a token. So here you can see this, I got the token. So let me quickly copy this and move back over here and go to auth, select this one, bearer token, and in this one, I'm going to remove this and paste the token. Now send it. So here you can see this, I got 200. So why this one is empty? Because I have only one user in my table. Okay, so is relatable is true. This one is also true. This one is relatable is false. So this one is excluded. And let me quickly check this. Another thing in the query. Okay, so this one is wrong written by me. Let's quickly restart an application. Spelling mistake for the true. That's why it's returning an empty object. Let me clear this and move back over here. Let's send it. So here you can see this, we got 2 records. So if I go over here, so you can check that we have 3 records, but we get only 2. Why? Because one is relatable is false. It means that this cannot be deleted. So we cannot perform any operation on this. And secondary thing is this is itself. It's a self user, right? So itself they cannot show. So in the same way, if you want to check for this one, let's quickly check for this. So the password is encrypted. So I have to give it a random try. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to check for this token. So if I go and check with this token, I should get only 1 record. Why? Because is relatable is one which should be excluded, and the secondary thing itself also should be excluded. So we got the token for test1@melanator.com. So this second object needs to be excluded when we change the token. So let me quickly clear this and paste it and send it. And here you can see this, it's working as expected, and we are returning only 4 data: ID, name, and email and status. No password is required, and this one is also not required. Okay, next thing, let's quickly move back over here, and this is the query which is printed. Let's stop this and move back to this one, user info REST. Another API which we are going to develop is update user status. So let's make some space, and that is of type post mapping slash update user status response entity. And let's quickly copy this and paste it over here at the request param. Request body, sorry. And in this one, required is equal to true. User info. Okay. Next thing, Control-Alt-L to format if it's not formatted. Okay. Let's go to this one, user info REST simple, because here we have to give the implementation for the same. So hover over this, click on implement method, select this one, click on OK. The implementation method is here. Again, we have to copy the whole stuff from the upper one. We have to make a minor changes. So first thing, update, change in the exception message, and also change over here, and here we have to pass the user info. If I hover over this, it will ask us to create a method that is update user status in user info service. So click on this, and here you can see this one is created. Next thing, in user service, we have already this one. So we have to go to this user info service simple, click on this, minimize this one, go to the top, hover over this, click on implement method, select this one, and click on OK. So now the implementation method is here. Next thing what we have to do is we have to provide the implementation for this. So first thing what we have to do is we have to check for the particular object if this one is null or not. So first thing, let me just copy this whole part and let's quickly paste it. Copy this method name and put it into this one. Okay. And after this, let me just remove this one, save it. First thing what we are going to do is we're going to check for this one. So if not objects dot is null, in this one we have to check for user info, and not objects dot is null user info dot get ID. And we also have to check for not objects dot is null, that is user info dot get status. If this is the case, it means that these all three things are not null. Okay. If this is null, in that case, we have to throw the exception that is invalid data, or we have to return a bad request, right? So else, let me copy this one, paste it over here, change the status, that is bad request, and into this one I have to return invalid data. After this, what I'm going to do is everything is as expected. In that case, first what I will do is I will execute the query. That is, I will try to update the status as per the for that specific ID. So for that, what I have to do is I have to write another query for the same. So let me quickly move back over here, go to this one, that is user info repository, and make some space over here. Okay. So over here, I'm going to write one query that will return an integer that how many rows are updated. So update user status, and in this one add the @. param. I'm going to show you how to use this status string status, and the second param is ID. So param ID, and this is of type integer, so ID. Whenever you are going to use any update query, in that case, any modification query, in that case we have to add @modifying, and secondary notation is @transactional. If you won't add it, then you will get the exception while executing it. So make sure to add these two. Okay, now move back over here to this user info, and here we have to write the queries. So make some space, @named query, name is equal to double quotes, and query is equal to double quotes. After this, into this one, first thing what we have to do is we have to put the name. So user info dot and the method name. So move back over here, select this method. We are going to provide the implementation for this, so we have to add that particular name. So user info dot update user status, and here we have to write the query. So update app user set status is equal to status where ID is equal to ID and is deletable. Let me just copy this name so that we don't make any mistake. Is deletable. Paste it over here. Is equal to true. So whenever this is deletable is true, for that particular user you can change the status. So now the task for this one is done. Now let's move back to the implementation part. So user info server simple over here. So over here, first thing what we are going to do is, as our database query is going to return an integer, so I'm going to accept that one. So integer, I'm going to give it a name. So update count is equal to user info repository dot update user service update user status. In this one we have to get it from user info dot get status, and another thing which we have to get is user info dot get ID. If, let me minimize this one so that you can see things clearly. So user update count is equal to 0. If it's equal to 0, it means that nothing is updated. Okay, so it means that user doesn't exist. Okay, so let's quickly copy this one, and simply we will return a bad request, and we're going to return a message that is user ID does not exist. If this is not the case, it means that it is successful, right? So make some space and paste it once again, and this will be the OK status, and change the message for this, that is user updated successfully, and save it. Now let's start our application and let's quickly check this. We have to put one more and over here. Okay, let me clear this, and let's move back over here, duplicate the tab. And over here, what we are going to do is we are going to change the API name. So let's quickly move back over here to this user info rest, update user status, move back over here, paste it. This is a post call. So post, go to the body, and over here, go to the raw and JSON. Open like this, beautify, and in this one, if we move back over here, what things we are expecting from this one. So let's quickly move back over here. So we need this status and the ID. So status, let's go to the database, status true or false, the ID. So for to ID, we have to make this one false. So now if I send it, user ID doesn't exist. It's throwing an error. Why? Because that one is quickly move back over here. Update app user, set app user is readable is equal to. Again, we have made the mistake true. My bad. So restart the application, rerun it. So let's quickly clear this and move back over here. We are going to try it for this one. That is test @validator.com. The status is true. So let's quickly change the ID to 1 and now send it. So here you can see this user updated successfully. Now quickly go to the database and let's run once again. Select start from app user. So if you can see this, the status is false now. And in the previous one, the status is true. Let's quickly move back this one to true. So true, send it, and let's quickly check now. So this one is true again. Next thing, if I go and try with another random ID, so if I send it, so here you can see this user ID doesn't exist. If I clear things up and send it once again, invalid data, it means that the filter which we have added, that is user ID and status is required, these are not there. In that case, invalid data is being thrown. So now these things are working as expected. Okay. So what if I pass null over here? So in that case, it should throw user ID doesn't exist. So it's working as expected. Okay. Now move back over here and let's quickly stop this and go to this user info rest. Next thing, we are going to develop another API that is for check token. So whenever we are going to navigate, we are going to check the token. If this one is working fine, then we can go and navigate to the other stuff. So at the rate get mapping, this is nothing but simply returning an empty JSON. So check token response entity. Go to this user info rest temple, make some space, implement method, click on OK. And as this method is never going to throw an exception, so what we're going to do is simply copy this and paste it over here. Check token, paste it, delete this one, hover over this, create a method check token. Go over here to the service, go to the top, hover over this, implement method, select the check token and click on OK. And over here, simply I'm going to return this message. So let me copy this one, paste it. This will be OK. And this will be the message is equal to true. Save it. This you can feel the utilization of this while developing the Angular part. So this is whenever we have to check the token expired or not. In that case, we will use this check token API. Next thing what we have to do is we have to develop one API that is to update the specific user. Okay, so that will also be post mapping, and this will be update user response entity update user, and this one is going to accept a request body. By default, required is true. If you want to add it, you can add it, or if you don't want to, then you can leave it. So here you can see this required true is by default. Okay, so user info. So don't get confused. Let me quickly move back to the Postman. So over here, as you can see, this update user status is not bypassed in JWT configuration. So how this one is working. So what happened is, whenever in the previous API, that is we are testing the get all app user, we have added the token. And when I came over here, right clicked on this duplicate tab. So in that case, this one is also generated with the token added already. So this one is already working on the basis of tokens, not directly, it's not working directly. Okay. So just be clear about that. Let me quickly minimize this and move back to the coding part. So over here, next thing what we have to do is we have to go over here and we have to give the implementation for that one. So hover over this. This is user info rest simple. Click on the implement method, select this one and click on OK. So here we have the implementation. Let me quickly copy this one. Move back over here, paste it. Change this one, update user. This one also to update user and save it. Next thing, hover over this. Cannot resolve method update user in user info service. So here we have the option to create method user in update user in user info service. So click on this. Here you can see that this one is created. Next thing, move back over here to this user info service simple. And here it shows the error. So click on this, implement method, select this one, click on OK. So here we are in the place. So let me quickly go over here and copy this part. Paste it. Control Alt L. So update user, change the message exception in update user. I don't need this for now. And now everything needs to be same. So first thing what we have to do is, by the ID, we will try to get that a specific user exists or not. Okay. So we are going to check for this one. So that is optional. And this is going to return a user info. And we're going to use the existing query. So optional user info is equal to user info repository, which we have already auto wired. So dot find by ID. Find by ID. And in this one, we are going to pass the user info dot get ID. After this, if optional user info dot is present, and we are going to add a not symbol on the front. If this is not the case, then what we are going to do is we are going to return. Let me quickly copy this one and paste it over here. So this will be a bad request because we are trying to update as user which doesn't exist. So here we are going to return the message user not found. Now save it. If this is not the case, then what we're going to do is we're going to create a user info 1 is equal to, and from the optional we are going to get this. When we try to get optional user info dot get, in that case object of this user info will be returned, and that we are going to store in the user info. And whatever the data we want to change or make the modification into this one, we can simply change it. So user info 1 dot set email, we can update the email. So user info dot get email, user info 1 dot set name also we can update. So user info dot get name, and we can simply call this one. So user info repository dot save, and inside this one we have to pass this user info 1. So user info, this is the object and this is the user info 1. Okay, so we have to remove this one. Okay, so in this user info we have to pass the ID, email and the name, and we have to call the save. So in that case, and everything apart from that is already coming from the database because we are fetching everything from the database. Okay, and after the saving it, let me just quickly copy this one and paste it over here, and this will be okay. Inside this one, let me just remove this message, and we have to simply pass user updated successfully and save it. Now I quickly start the application and let's quickly test this. Let me quickly clear this. move back over here, and let me quickly duplicate the tab. So whenever I duplicate, if I go over here to the auth, you already have the token. So make sure you also have the same. If you are coding after a day, after coding the previous video, in that case, you have to go again to the login page. You have to hit the API and you have to get the fresh token and you have to replace over here. So as I'm doing in a sync in the current video, so we can use the existing token. Okay. So now first thing, let me just quickly move back over here and we have to change the API endpoint. So go over here, this update user, move back over here, change this one, go to the body, and over here we need 3 different things. That is what things we are required. Let's quickly check. To minimize this, first thing is ID. So ID is already there. Let's quickly remove this status. ID is required, and from the user info, email is also required. So let's quickly move back over here, and I'm going to take one email, test1@melanator.com. And after this, what we have to do is we have to also set the name. And name is test1. So I'm going to rename it to test1111 like this. Now beautify it. So ID is 2 for the same. test1@melanator.com. The ID is 2. So now send it. Here you can see this user updated successfully. So the email needs to be same, but the name needs to be updated and everything apart from that needs to be same. So let's quickly select this. And here you can see this. Now test111 is renamed. Let me quickly move back to the original one and send it. And here you can see this. It's to the original one. Also, I want to change the email. So let's quickly do that also. Send it. And here you can see this, the email is also updated. Next thing I'm going to try with okay, let me just invert this one. Okay, so my token is expired. Okay, email ID itself is changed, so that's why I'm logged out. Send it. Let's quickly copy this one. Move back over here. I have to pass a new token. Now send it. So now user updated successfully. If I again try to hit this, this will not work. Why? Because in the token, the email ID is different. So move back over here. And log in, revert back, change the token, copy the token and move back over here and paste the new token. So send it. User updated successfully. So in this case now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass one ID which doesn't exist in my database. If I try to send it, user not found exception is thrown. Okay. So that's all for the user info. So let me quickly move back over here. These all API which are required for this particular thing is done. In the next video, we are going to start the development of another part of the this project. So stay tuned, subscribe and share with your friends, and thanks for watching.